norms and stereotypes to making sure that the butts are white. Boy, girl, mom and dad want grown-up time, you're going mad. It's a trip, but we'll guide you through with tips and tricks for boys and girls too.
Boy, Girl, Mom and Dad podcast. First episode. We're here. Welcome.
Hello. Welcome.
Thank you. My name is Lauren.
And I'm Nick.
And we have boy-girl twins, Cypress and Olive. By the time you're listening to this, they will be a year and a half old already, and I can't believe it. Can you believe it?
Which is very weird. That's this week, right?
Yeah, but it's next week for everybody else. That's what I said.
That.
By the time they listen to it.
Yes, it's pretty crazy. Mm-hmm. No, I can't believe it.
Yeah. We started this podcast to basically talk about parenting, our journey. We've learned a lot. We want to learn with you. And right now we thought it'd be fun for the first episode to kind of meet the parents and go over the last 500 plus days that we've been parents, including like pregnancy time too.
When you say 500 days, it does now feel like it's been more than a year, like a year and a half.
Yeah, I thought you were definitely going to bring up 500 Days of Summer because that's one of your favorite movies.
I love 500 Days.
Yeah, it's not one of my favorites, but it just made me sad.
Yeah. But we can't all be right.
Yeah, but this is exciting, so I'm going to love it. 500 Days of Cypress and Olive. Love it for us. Mm-hmm. And it'll be fun. We'll talk about, some not so fun things, some fun things, throw in some Easter eggs. Like, I don't know, maybe the people want to know that you passed out in the delivery room, except
Great.
It wasn't.
Let's just kick it right off with that.
It wasn't the delivery room because I had a C-section, so
yeah.
It was in our postpartum unit. It was not in the operating room. He was cool as a cucumber.
We'll talk about that.
Yeah.
We'll talk about that later.
Just like some fun things for everybody.
It's important to note that pregnancy is hard on the husband, on the man.
Great.
It's hard on the man.
We're going to start off with some really good reviews. While we're talking about reviews, Nick is joking. But if you like this podcast, if you like listening to us, please leave us a review. Mm-hmm. Rate us. Let us know what you think. Send us a DM on boygirlmom spelled out dot.com, boygirlmom.com, and our website. You can send us an email from there too. We want to talk to you.
Yeah, send us questions.
I can't just talk to him all the time.
Yeah,
he would love that. Honestly, he's an extrovert.
That's true.
An extroverted extrovert.
Yeah, send us questions. Send us things you want to talk about. Just remember, we're not experts, so if you're asking us, it just means, hey, let's all talk about it together.
Yeah, let's talk about it together.
Yeah, let's talk about it together. Mm-hmm. Welcome to the podcast. So we're still parents, obviously, right? So our kids are in another room. They are learning with Miss Rachel right now. Mm-hmm. We're big fans of Miss Rachel.
They're strapped into a seat. We're watching them on a
safe.
camera.
They're
but if it
hanging
seems
out.
choppy, it's probably because we had to pause to go help them with something.
If I shoot Lauren a look like this, it means one of the kids is sad or they need help or whatever. So just roll with us. We might have some choppy cuts, and that's why. I've got a camera here on the floor.
Hashtag living in areas outside of the grandparents' help.
Yes. We're doing what we can.
Yeah. We have a wonderful nanny, though, which we'll talk about at another time. But
she's an incredible human being.
She is wonderful. So to start off, I kind of want to just hit the pavement and ask hard-hitting questions and talk about gender disappointment. And we have a boy and a girl, and we have people come up and say oh, you have the perfect scenario. That sounds like it's old ladies telling us, but sometimes everybody. Sometimes it is. Oh, you have the perfect scenario. You have a son and a daughter, and I think I'm not ever mean about it or anything like that. I'm just oh yeah, we love them, but I think we're both very much team healthy baby. Having a miscarriage before the twins, you learn how precious life is if you didn't already know it before, and so I had a very anxious pregnancy, and wanting to make it to the end and being able to hold them was a big deal, and I didn't care at that point if they were girls or boys. I also am very sensitive to that. I think just growing up, I have one sister. I'm the oldest of us too, and people would always ask my dad hey, when are you going to try for the boy? And my dad was I'm happy with my two girls that I have. And so I very much understand that gender disappointment is real, and if I would have had something else, I could have maybe in another scenario I would have experienced something like that as well, but I didn't have that.
And I had a slightly different upbringing, right? I was the oldest of three, and the two younger siblings were both sisters, so I was not only the only boy but also the oldest, which I loved. So I always, it was partially a joke, but I really did for a long time want a boy first. And I mean, we talked about, in marriage counseling and everything prior, like, A, we know we wanted to have kids, and B, we know we wanted probably more than one if it could happen. When it started to become possible for us, like, I always thought, hey, it's a boy first is really what I want. And yeah, I don't know if that's because it probably is a little bit because I was like the oldest and a guy, and I loved being able to have a protective presence for my sisters. And I wanted that for whatever other, kids we had past the first one. Not that a female couldn't protect their siblings, but I think I had some of that in my mind of like, this is what I want.
I mean, you would joke with that. Like, we didn't say their names to anybody except us, like, to each other. So they were just like, the boy and the girl are twin A and twin B. But that was also confusing because, like, my OB called one twin A, and then my MFM, my maternal fetal medicine doctor, called another one twin A, like the opposite one. So my point is we didn't know which one was coming out first, the boy or the girl. For the longest time, we thought Olive was going to come out first. But Cypress ended up coming out first. And so, I mean, I understand.
Which I did not influence that. That just happened.
No, that just happened. He didn't request it or anything like that. Cypress was lower, Olive was higher. They were both breech. I had a C-section, so they were actually both, like, I think sideways. I don't actually remember. Head was not first. But yeah, you kind of joke with that about Cypress, and like you've always kind of joked about having a boy first, but I never really thought you were saying like, oh, boy has to be first.
Yeah, I was, and I didn't feel that way. But like, I don't know. I did have a preference, I think is the point. So like to your original question and your original topic, like when people say, oh, you have the ideal scenario because we have one of each and they're twins, so they're, technically the same age. Like it doesn't feel like the perfect scenario for us. It feels more like, to me at least, the scenario we were given. Like it feels like our ideal. And I think, like, if I know this is stealing from one of your future questions, but like if I were to tell past Nick, like, hey, chill out on thinking about something, it would be what gender you want your first kid to be, because like Cypress was born 1 minute earlier, right? If Olive was
maybe if it was even on paper, it's
6
a minute.
seconds, let's call it a minute on the birth certificate. But if Olive was born first, like I would feel 0% different right now. Yeah. So, yeah.
Yeah. Just kind of like speaking about that and like raising girls and boys. I know in society, like sometimes families can raise boys differently than girls. Like, what do you think? And I think coming from a girl household, I don't think like Emma, and my sister's name is Emma, by the way. Hi, Emma, if you're listening. We were raised like we can do whatever we want. We can do it all. And so I feel like we were very like independent. So I never think differently about like raising Cypress and Olive. Like I want them both to be all of those things. Do you have an opinion on that? Do you think you'll have to correct on some like mental like thoughts about raising girls and boys at all?
Yeah, I mean, I'll start by saying like I want us to be as equal as possible raising them. So like, yes, I do think I'm going to have to approach each of them differently because one's a boy and one's a girl. But I think it's because the odds are stacked a little bit against the girl in my mind. Like, in no way did I, even though I wanted a boy first, I never thought it's because boys are better than girls or anything like that, right? It was more a preference based on my experience in my upbringing.
Yeah, you loved being a big brother.
Yeah. So and like, I just wanted that again. And, my sisters told me they loved it too. So like, I wanted that for whatever other kids we had. I think even though we want them to be raised equally, I think it's going to be, I'm going to need to overcorrect a little bit and like making sure that I provide the same level of care and the same level of like encouragement and criticism. And
I don't think you have, I'm just going to correct you on that. I don't think you'll have to like the same level of care. You care deeply for them. I just want that to come off. I'm just going to send a little asterisk there.
Well, like, I mean, so an example, right, is like I call both of them beautiful all the time, right? Like when I'm holding them, but I don't have to think about it very much when I'm holding Olive, our little girl. And it's not because she's any more or less beautiful than Cypress. It's just like, it is a natural thing in my mind that girls are beautiful, so like that's something I don't have to think about to say. And I love saying it and thinking about it with respect to Cypress as well.
You say beautiful boy.
Yeah. But I have to like, I've added some phrases in my head where like I I don't know if I am saying it more to him, but I definitely have to think about it more when I'm hanging out with Cypress or holding Cypress. I'm like, this is something he needs to hear as well. So when I say overcorrect, that's what I'm talking about. I'm not saying I'm deficient in one spot, but it's like I'm trying to fight against my preconceived biases.
Society.
And like, yeah.
So I have a quote, and I wanted to see what you thought about it. It's actually, I had just heard it, like when people would post quotes or whatever on Tumblr. Actually Tumblr's still around.
Yes.
But it's from a book called The Spiritual Meaning of the Sex of a Baby. And it says when a woman has their first child as a girl, most likely the mother needed maturity. And if she had a boy, she needed to know the real meaning of love. And so for me, I'm like, did I need both of them? One, do you have any thoughts on that? And two, when people say like, oh, they're having a boy or oh, they're having a girl, there are key phrases that I've noticed when they're saying like, oh, this is great because this is about having a boy and this is great and this is having a girl. Yeah. And I actually think they're
Or like, you'll be a great girl mom or you'll be a great boy mom.
Yeah, kind of. But like, when they're describing having a son, it's like they're so squishy and lovey and cuddly, which I think relates to like needing to know the meaning of true love, like from that book. And I would agree, like Cypress is very smushy and cuddly and lovey. And like, it's not just me who thinks that, like I've heard lots of other boy moms say that. And then for girls, it's like, they're more like, it's not that Olive isn't lovey. She just is very specific about when she gives that and is more like sassy and independent, which I love because I think it's really good to know like what you like and what you don't like. And don't worry, Cypress lets us know what he likes and doesn't like as well. But it's just different and it's hard to describe. And I think it's often used when you're trying to not convince a parent that they'll be a great boy mom or what to look for as a boy mom, just kind of like loops back to the gender disappointment. But let me just loop back to my question here is like, one, do you have a thought about the quote that I said? And two, how do you feel as a dad, like raising both a boy and a girl? How does it feel different?
I don't know how different it has felt, to be honest. Like, I feel like it's been very difficult for me to compare because it's just all happened at once. So, like, it's not like we raised Cypress first and then raised Olive or vice versa. So, like, I don't know. It doesn't feel that much different to me.
But just feeling, sorry, I'm interrupting.
You're fine.
But like, does loving them feel different? Because like, to me, I know like moms are like, I don't know how I would love another baby when they have two, but me, it's like fresh out the gate, we have two. And so it's like your heart extra expands. And so like, but I feel different loving them. Like it would be like saying loving Olive is purple and loving Cypress is green. Like it just feels different. So I didn't know if it felt different in that way to you. Because I don't love one more than the other, but I do love them differently because they're different people.
Yeah, I would agree with that. I probably do the same thing.
Yeah.
I mean, yeah, I do. Like, I think it's more mirroring what I feel like their personalities are. But, like, there are things that hit me differently that they both have done. Like, for example, like, yesterday morning, we're getting ready to leave. And, like, I'm about to start the car and open the garage door. And, like, Olive is in Lauren's hands. And she's, like, all of a sudden says Papa for the first time. And, like, Cypress had said it before. They kind of trade milestones. We'll talk about that later. But, like, Cypress, when he said it, I was very excited. Like, very happy, pumped. But it felt different.
It hit you different.
Like,
with your little girl.
Olive, yeah. So, like, Olive said it. And, like, I was like, whew. So, like, we're loading up the car to go to this Easter egg hunt. And, like, Dad's, shedding some tears.
If you're not on video, Nick's tearing up right now.
Yeah, sure.
See
it's not important. So it hit me differently. So to your point, like, it's not that Olive saying Papa was any better or worse, but it did feel different.
I feel like it also hits you differently when Olive cries. And me, I'm like, they both, like, kill me when they cry.
Yeah.
But I guess Olive does more of, like, the silent, like, build up to cry.
Yeah.
But it hurts my heart for both of them.
Yeah, I agree with that. I mean, yeah, maybe that's part of the older brother that's still in me is like, I feel like I need to be able to help or step in a different way or a more significant way than I do with Cypress. Yeah. The other one, like the quote you brought up, I don't know about that. Like it's
probably just like one of those things I like, a screenshot.
I know.
I'll never go back and look at it.
It's interesting, but it's like, I don't know that it aligns with the way that I feel about how boys and girls get here. Okay. Like it seems to attach
You don't think I needed maturity, and then I had my love through you already. Is that what you're saying?
Right. Yeah, that's what I mean. No, like I don't think I agree that a deficiency in the mother is what results in a specific baby. You know?
I don't know that they're saying it results. I think they're just saying it's like, is ironic the right word? That like,
sure,
or maybe it's not.
But I mean, you're kind of saying like that's kind of what it feels like. You know?
Yeah. No, it's more so silly.
It's
I just
like
didn't know if you had a point on it.
get the baby you need. You know?
But you do.
Well, and sure you do, but like I don't know. To suggest that to me is to suggest that if you need to grow in a specific area, that somehow can influence or swing the scale of whether you have a boy or a girl.
Yeah.
I don't know about that.
It's so, I mean, all of those things are so interesting with like the old wives' tales
Yeah.
and like the Chinese like birth calendar.
Yeah.
Which obviously didn't really work on me like to tell because the Chinese birth calendar specifically, like it only works like, I don't know. I'm not going to explain it to you. Google it. It's interesting, but it's always funny to see or fun to see what they kind of say you're going to be. But I was all over the place just because I had a boy and a girl. So didn't really work for me.
Yeah, I probably looked distracted for a second. I just had to check the camera. I talked about at the beginning. Everything's okay.
Great.
There's a leaf in the front of the camera, right in front of the kid's head. So it's kind of hard to see them. But I know they're okay. They lean left and right.
Okay. Great. Thank you for checking.
Let's go back to gender disappointment because you asked me a lot of questions and you didn't really get asked questions. So how did you...
Step on up to the plate, buddy.
Yeah, I'm here. So like how... I know that you are happy with having one of each, right?
Yeah.
One boy and one girl. Did you really have an expectation like I did, or a hope rather, of like which one you wanted first? And you can even answer from like pre-miscarriage because you kind of brought that up, right? So like, did you have any inkling of a hope of I hope the first one is a girl or I hope the first one is a boy?
I don't think it was a hope. I think it's more of like a what you know, which is kind of like how you answered. So like, I'm a girl, I had a sister, and so I think I know what to do with a girl. Mm-hmm. And then with boys, like even in my family, my cousins, I only have, out of all of them, most of them are girls and like only 2 are boys. And so like, I feel like boys are harder to get gifts. I'm just thinking out loud here. And so it's more like, okay, girls are what I know, and I know what to do with girls. But like, and I think the same with whenever we were finding out we were having like what genders the twins were, because we did do the, what was called Natera. There's only like one that will tell you ahead of the scan.
Is this a test?
Yes, sorry. It's a gender test, but it's the only one that works for twins. Besides just doing it at the anatomy scan. And I think like on that, I was like, I thought sisters would be fine. Like girl would be fine just because like I had a sister. Boy girl is like one of each. And like, I'm not saying to rank them, but like I would have known the least of what to do with 2 boys. Not to say I wouldn't have loved them. Like I think in my mind, I always thought I would be a boy mom, actually. Like I don't know why. And so to wrap it up.
Is it because of what you were deficient in? Is it because of one of those things from your quote?
Yeah. Mm-hmm. I needed to know what true love was.
Right.
And no, this was before I think I even read that quote, but I think it just goes back to what you're comfortable with and what you know. Like you wanted a boy first because you're a big brother, and that you wanted a boy in general, and you're also a boy. Whereas like for me, I had a sister, I know what to do with girls, but it was never like, I think, a preference. I think it's what I like leaned towards, which I know can be the same thing as a preference, but it was never like I would be upset if one was the other way.
And how do you feel now that we're in this scenario where we have one of each?
I love it, but I mean, part of the whole reason that I created boygirlmom.com is because I felt left out.
Like, I thought you were going to say the reason I created One Boy and One Girls. How intentional was it for you?
That was all you, baby. No, the reason I created boygirlmom.com is because like I felt left out. Like I'm not a girl mom, I'm not a boy mom, I'm both of them. Like, but I don't get to wear like a cute sweatshirt or be in a cute club.
Sweatshirts.
Thank you, but I don't get to be in the clubs. They're like exclusive clubs, and like I say this in like my reason of why I created boygirlmom.com. Like I understand why like girl mom exists and boy mom exists, because a lot of society thinks like you should have a boy and a girl and that's it. And so that was to like make people feel good about what they have, which they absolutely should feel good. But in the end, I just think I felt left out because I had 2 at once. It's already like a small.
That's something you just reminded me of something like people usually say, oh, like you got the perfect scenario or you have
Yes.
the perfect situation, they typically follow it up with like, oh, so you're done now. Like you can stop,
Yeah.
you know, which is interesting on many levels. Cause like they're kind of suggesting like, okay, 2 is the perfect number or 2 is enough. Right. And like numbers things aside, it's like, that seems to suggest that the ideal scenario is 1 boy and 1 girl.
Well, yeah, and that's what I'm saying. Like, I understand why girl mom and #boy mom
Yeah.
exists, because that is the pressure that like society has put on it. I mean, you look back to like
Yeah.
kings and queens, like King Henry VIII was so upset. That was Queen Elizabeth I's dad. He was so upset and kept remarrying because he wanted to get his boy, but he was
Yeah.
like, killer, I didn't get a boy, but like, dude, it's
Yeah.
all on you. Like, you are the deciding factor to what
Yeah.
you have. But it goes back to even the Bible, like the male, oldest like male gets the heir. Did I say that right?
Yeah. The oldest male. Yeah.
Yeah.
That's yeah. Okay. Let's go to the next subject.
Okay.
I've been long-winded. It's my fault.
Okay, so the next question I think you're gonna like, it is, what was the best advice you received like pre-parent, before you were a parent?
About being parents?
Yeah.
Because there's a bunch of general advice.
Yeah,
I think
no,
that was a dumb
about
question. I'm sorry.
being parents.
So 2 of our good friends who live somewhere else, but 2 of our good friends who we met for lunch on a trip a while ago, before we were really considering, like, are we ready to have kids? I mean, we knew we wanted them, but we hadn't decided to start trying yet. They brought their baby. How old was the baby?
Oh, she was under a year. She basically like slept
Yeah.
in her little infant seat the whole time we were out.
Yeah.
Except when she got hungry.
Yeah.
So
like,
I'd say like maybe under 6 months.
yeah, young. And like, I mean, we knew nothing about being parents and like when you should bring your baby out. But you know, like,
Well, and sorry to cut in, just for like context, it was interesting because we went to a Mexican restaurant and we sat down and they actually asked us to leave because like it was like the bar area or something.
Yes,
so we had to go
that's
find
true. I
another
forgot about
restaurant.
that.
So anyway, keep going.
which like we didn't care about as
No.
the parent, as the, you know, the people there without kids. We didn't care. Like we just wanted to hang out
No.
with them. And we also have no problem they brought their baby. But like, so I remember the baby was so chill. Right. And like, again, no context, Nick. Like I had no idea. Like to me, baby being chill was like super random and like, I don't know, a great, crazy blessing for them. So I asked, I was like, how, like, you guys must really love like being able to bring your kid everywhere. Cause it sounded like they did. And they kind of talked about it already. And like their advice, I don't remember which one of them said it, but their advice was like, yeah, like we were told by people a while ago, like just bring your baby to the things you already enjoy doing. Like bring them into your life. And they were like, so that's what we've done. Like we've brought her to plenty of places. And like, we think that is helping as far as why she's so chill here. But like, we do it. We just bring them to whatever's hard. And I think that's been, for me, like the best advice we've gotten. Because like we have really tried to do that. I think we've done a good job of that. Like you guys will hear when we talk about travel and stuff later, but like we've brought them a ton of places. Like they've been on 24 airplanes by now, like multiple road trips. We brought them to like volleyball games and like, you know, restaurants and like bars and stuff, like anywhere that will take them
where they're allowed.
Yeah, of course, where they're allowed.
We've been
like,
turned away some places.
yeah, just for not knowing, but like we bring them, right? And like it is absolutely hard to do that. But for me, it's always been joyful.
Yeah, I would agree with you that I think that's the best advice that we received.
Yeah.
Because I think, I mean, with twins, it's a whole different ball game, and like we didn't know what we were really going to be able to do. And I think that one of the things is like Nick is such a great partner, and we really do, like, we are a well-oiled machine. We whenever like people like to just like watch us go through the security line at the airport and stuff, or even like on an airplane, like how we manage everything. And I just think that we're a really good partnership, and he is such a good helper. But also it's just like, I think we would have gone crazy if we didn't get out and do things, because one baby is a lot in general, but like 2 babies, wow, like getting out the door, you know, I think even this morning when we tried to leave, we left 20 minutes later than we wanted to. And that was actually great. Like, it wasn't 30
Which is
minutes.
not a unique problem to twins,
No.
to clarify, which I know
Right.
you're not saying that. But
travel.
That's with full focus and participation from both of us.
Yeah, and I think
the
just
whole morning.
travel adds a whole nother aspect
Yeah.
to that of, like, packing and everything. Just because, you know... It just is a lot. It's a lot. And, but it's worth it. And I think that if we would just, like, stayed in our apartment, I think we would have, like, lost our minds.
Yeah.
So getting out and doing, and like Nick said, it's hard. And I still remember, like, the first time I went somewhere with Cypress and all by myself, I, like, had to push myself to do it. It was like ripping off the Band-Aid. I had recently been cleared from my C-section. I think they were around, like, 2 months old. Just a side note, if you didn't know, like, with a C-section, you're not supposed to, like, pick up certain things. So I couldn't pick up, like, their infant carriers and things like that. But it was just a lot. But, like, I was like, I can do it. I'm gonna be okay. And, you know, I was going to hang out with some other women, but it was, like, necessary for me mentally to know how to do it and know that I could do it. So I think a little piece of advice here that you didn't ask for is, well, along with that, I would say just, like, start it early, because it's never going to get easier. It will get easier in some ways, harder in some ways, but once if you start doing it when they're younger, you have more confidence as you go into it. So I would just say take them into your lives and start it early.
Yeah. Like, I would not say that traveling with them has become any easier as they've gotten older. I would say, like, more challenges have entered our lives, like, similar to the ones that have left. So, like, we're no longer mixing formula on airplanes, but now we have to have enough snacks and enough variety of snacks and enough variety of toys, you know, like, yes, it gets a little easier, and then more hard stuff comes in. So, yeah,
and you don't know it until it's gone. And I'm not saying it in, like, life is short, because we all know that. I'm just saying, like, you literally do not know. Like, you'll get used to that era, that sounds like a long time. You'll get used to that.
Taylor Swift's tour.
I am.
Yeah.
You'll get used to that stint of time, and then by the time you're used to it, it's time to, like, figure something out.
Yeah. So if you're a person that likes to get in your groove, parenting is
you're gonna
for you.
be getting in your groove a lot. You just have lots of opportunities to do it.
You got a bunch of new grooves to get into.
Mm-hmm. My groove.
I think that was so this is, like, just a tangent story, but, like, how early were we out in our favorite winery in Paso Robles with them after they were born? Week 4 or 5?
It was, like, a month later, because it was around your birthday. I want to say.
Was it about
they
4?
were born October 13th, and then I think we were there, like, November 18th, 19th.
So, yeah, 4 or 5 weeks old. We had them at our favorite winery, which we can probably plug it. It's free advertising for them. Go to Epic.
EPOCH.
That was cool. We didn't plan that.
They're in Paso Robles.
Amazing wine. Grenache, Syrah, Mourvedre style blends.
Anyway,
you
can listen to Nick's podcast
my
on his
wine podcast.
Yeah. Anyway.
Yeah, they're great. But, like, it was, you know, we knew their winemaker, and we knew, like, people that worked there, and we've been there a ton. We love that place, and, like, having them there on that was our first road trip with them. Yeah. Right. Which was super hard. We had the dog with us. We have a Great Dane. We had the dog with us.
Dina with us.
And, like, it's one of my favorite memories. Yeah. You know,
it was really sweet.
Yeah, like, they were. The carriers, remember the carriers?
Infant carriers.
We had the infant carriers
up
on the table.
He's crying again.
We had the infant carriers up on the table. Dogs, like, tied, hanging out with us. We each have a big flight of wine, like,
tasting.
Yeah, like, one of our favorite tasting room associates is there. Like, the winemaker came out, Jordan, who's amazing, female winemaker, wonderful. She came out, and, like, we're tasting wine with her. She's holding the babies, so special.
It was like a crisp November day.
Yeah,
but it was also had a little bit of heat to it because the sun was out. Yeah. Anyway, do it. Travel with your kids. Take them into your
We'll talk
lives.
more about, like, deep dives of travels, because there's a lot of craziness and pain involved as well. But we still do it. It's a lot of fun, but we have to talk about it. That's a deep dive for another episode.
Yep.
What would you go back and tell your pre-parent self?
So while I was pregnant, right?
I mean, I would say before that. Maybe while you were pregnant, sure, but, like, before you were a mom.
Yeah.
Because some would say you're a mom when you're pregnant, so I'm just like, pull it back.
Yeah, okay, pull it back. I think, so my personality is type A. I also have a little bit of type B in there with, like, the creative sense, but I'm
type AAA, type quadruple A.
Okay, yeah. And, like, if you're an Enneagram person, I'm a Enneagram 1 wing 2. So I am very much get it all done, checklist. Like, people often ask, like, how do you do everything you do in a day? And I think actually, like, starting when I was pregnant, that affected, or the babies affected me in this way. But I mean, again, I had an anxious pregnancy in general just because I was sick the whole time, and just with miscarriage and stuff like that, it was anxious for me, anxiety inducing. But in general, I had to pull back a lot. So I think what I would tell myself, I guess, pre-pregnant self, pre-parent self, would just like worry less and just kind of go with the flow. I remember we were going on like a girls trip, and I'm normally like, this is the time we need to leave. This is the schedule, print it out, itinerary, blah, blah, blah. And like a friend was running late, and she was like, I'm sorry, we need to go pick up so-and-so. And I'm like, it's okay. We don't have a schedule. We're on our own timeline. And she was like, who are you? And what did you do with Lauren? I'm like, it's cool. Because I think being pregnant with twins, it really made me laid back. It made me loosen up, and just knowing that I was not going to be able to be in control of a lot of things. And I know in pregnancy in general, you are in control, but it's even more so with twins. Like, I knew at least like 90% sure that I would have a C-section. So like I wasn't going to, quote, worry about like delivering and things like that. So I just really, it made me loosen up. And so that's what I would also probably go and tell my pre-parent self, is just to loosen up. And it's going to be okay if you can't get it all done. You can get some things done, but most of the time you're not going to be able to get things done. And honestly, it's gotten like, I don't want to say worse because that sounds harsh, but even like as a parent now, that's even worse. And I was like, I'm going to be cool going into parenthood just because like I've already had to like loosen up and chill out, but like I had to chill out even more, which is insane to even say. But I also think like my OB is amazing, and she encouraged me to have a birth wish list. And again, I didn't really have a true, what you would call a birth wish list, just because again, I wasn't giving birth naturally. But she calls it a wish list instead of a birth plan, because it allows you to make room for changes, whether you change your mind or things go a certain different way. And I think that actually bleeds into parenthood. Just have a parenthood wish list and be flexible. Yeah. So I think that's what I would say to myself.
I'm going to make some clarifications to what you said, and you tell me if I'm right or wrong. Okay? There's nothing's bad. I would say you absolutely have become more chill, 100%. Gradually.
I'm cool. I'm a cool
Gradually.
mom.
You're a cool mom. Cool mom. Cut to me in Hawaii learning this and then never stopping. Yeah. So I'm not saying you're not. I'm saying like it wasn't like day one you had the babies and all of a sudden you're chill. It was like you were kind of forced to be that way because we had to deal with so much failure and so many mistakes and so much learning. Like there was no room for previous version of Lauren being, so type AAA.
And I think my sister said this to me, but it's kind of like beautiful in the sense of like, the babies were born, but I also birthed a new version of myself too. Like I can't go back to the way that I was. I think there's a song in there I could probably sing, but I'll spare y'all.
You write a song. Yeah, that'd be great. Yeah, that's true. And I was gonna say, do you remember what you said when you learned it was twins? About being like chill and type A and planning. So you said something like there goes the plan. Like the plan's out the window.
I don't remember that.
Yeah, like I don't
remember most of the
years.
If
there was a well, you were pregnant, which I guess is kind of hard, right?
Anyway. He's joking, by the way, everybody.
No, I do think being pregnant's hard. I'm not joking about that. Well, you said
kind of hard. Yeah. It wasn't hard.
I know.
Anyway, clarifying.
There was a point where you I think recognized oh, this is going to be way more chaotic than I expected. Yeah.
Embracing the chaos.
Yeah.
Oh.
Yeah, which we've both had to do.
Yeah. So, Nick, what would you go back and tell your pre-parent self?
That is such a good and timely question. What would I tell my pre-parent self? I think there's a lot of things. I think the main thing I would tell me is the really tiny tasks that you can wait to do until the end. I'm not thinking about this on purpose because of this scenario.
Oh, yeah.
You'll be so much more disappointed for not doing them than before becoming a parent. So I'm thinking of, so kind of the opposite of what you're saying, but for me, cause I'm different, right? Yeah. But the gift you gave me, the little book, right? That may or may not been the source of fights because of me. The little book.
That was from my parents. That wasn't from me.
Right. Sorry. So I was not very good at writing, and it was a book
to let everybody know what
yeah.
it is. It's like it's a journal. Like every day, I can put it in the show notes, but it's like every day you write just a sentence about that day, and it's actually for 5 years. So there's like when you're writing on each day, you can see what you wrote the previous year.
Yeah, yeah, and then to keep track of some milestones and stuff too, but more from like the perspective of your memory. And I am now doing that on my phone, and then I'm throwing it into the book, which is sitting on my desk in my office. Like when I am able to, like when Olive said Papa yesterday, like I wrote that down and threw a picture on it, which I like that I can do that on my phone. But there were a ton of days where I didn't do that. And it wasn't because I didn't want to or I didn't care, but like I was doing other things that I thought were more important. And now I'm like looking back, I'm like, ugh, if I had all those little notes, that would be amazing.
Well, I think it felt like work to you, and right?
Yes.
And like that's a whole different topic we can discuss. And like,
Yeah.
I don't want to get it, that's really just a whole other podcast.
That's a different podcast, different episode on a different podcast.
It wasn't that it wasn't important to you. It's just like we don't, like we said, we're not by either of our families, and so like they did come and help us a little bit at the beginning, and we have like a great nanny, but we didn't have her till the twins were before 6 months, like 3 or 4 months old. And, a lot of that twin stuff was on us, and it was just the two of us. Yeah. Just the two of us.
I think there are ways like...
I got a song in.
Yeah, well done. Did you write that song?
No.
There are other things where like my answer is similar to you. So like I'm not as type A, but there are things I like.
You're not type A.
Sure.
That sounded probably more aggressive than
it probably did.
You have your particular
well, that's what I'm getting at. So like, yeah, and this is part of other questions of the future too, but like I love to spend the time on making a pour over cup of coffee for myself, which takes like 5 to 10 minutes if you like do all the steps.
What's your favorite coffee roaster?
And right now it's Onyx out of Fayetteville, Arkansas. They're amazing. ONYX. Very, very good.
Their roasting's now in Rogers,
Arkansas.
We like the location in Bentonville.
This is how we get advertising partners, right? We
just
like we
I'm
talk
so
about
sorry.
them and don't charge
go
money.
Go back to your
no, it's
you're
fine.
you loving to make a pour over cup of coffee.
Yeah. So like if there's something I am specific about and want to finish, it's something like that.
Yeah.
That has a time component to it. So like if you're nerdy about coffee like I am, like you have to pour the right amount of water at the right speed with the right weight, the right temperature at the right time. And having kids any age, like there was no way that I could start and finish one of those. There was always something that needed to be done, and it's the answer to a question we'll ask in the future.
Yeah, I'm like, what are you doing?
Like,
we're gonna
sorry.
ask that question later.
It's something that it's timely for now because it's relevant now because it is something I had to back off of, like being so controlling over.
Yeah.
And there were plenty of cups of coffee where I was like, okay, this one's not going to be up to the quality standards that I have in my head, and it's okay because it's better for me to screw this cup of coffee up or have it be fine instead of amazing, and also be able to help my kids with whatever they need.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
So the next question is, what did you think would be hard that was actually easier than you thought it would be?
So my answer, I think, is the same as the first time we talked about this. My answer is the sleep deprivation. So, which is going to make me sound superhuman, and I promise I am not.
No, because it's my answer too. But anyway, keep going.
So yeah, like is it hard to wake up that frequently and be sleep deprived? Obviously, and yes. 100% yes. But
can I just add in a little twin tidbit that people may not know if you have twins? They're not like, we don't have identical twins, but even identical twins, they don't necessarily wake up at the same time. Oh, no. So oftentimes they ping pong. So it's not just, you're getting up.
We came up with, yeah.
Yeah. You might be getting up like back and forth is my point. So it's not a typical get up with one baby type situation. So it's extra.
To your point, it's hard enough if you have one kid. It's still hard with two, but also with two, like, the 1 or 2 hour break in between each feed or each diaper change you need at the very beginning, like sometimes we didn't get that. And even though we were working as a team and we're both able to like get up and help, and I think we did a pretty good job of trading off, it's still like it was constant and really hard. But I think it was way easier than I expected. And I think like, so there's two things that I hear from society, like about this is how it's going to be hard, or this is why it's going to be hard, right? The first and the one that's usually like the heaviest weight is like, oh, you won't have your own personal life anymore. Like the things you enjoy doing for you, say goodbye to those. You know, like I had remember the lady at the register early on? I was like, I was checking out by myself. Yeah, you were pregnant, right? Yeah. And I was like, because I'm an extrovert, I was talking to everybody about like, oh, we got twins coming.
Yeah, he basically had a shirt that said, ask me about my twins on it.
I would have worn that shirt.
Yeah, I know.
And this lady like at the register when I was checking out the grocery store, she's like, oh, like get ready for you to have no life. What all the things you enjoy are going to be gone. And she had this like serious look in her eyes. And I was like, like, first of all, why are we answering questions like that? Like if somebody gives you amazing news, the first thing you say is something like that, but that's a different point.
It's par for the course because we would have people tell us when we found out it was twins, they're like, oh, better you than me. Yeah. Anyway.
It set me up for like, okay, you're not going to be able to enjoy, which I was not really afraid of. But the second bigger thing is like, oh, how are you going to get through those first few months? And like, especially with people finding out we had twins, it was like, oh, it's going to like, you're going to get not a little rest, you'll get no rest, you know? And it to me, it was really built up in conversation and like in society and everything. Like, it just feels like, okay, the hardest thing for me to get through is being sleep deprived.
Yeah.
And it just wasn't for me. Like, yes, it sucked for the first few months. Like it was really, really hard, but it was nowhere near, I would say it wasn't in the top 5 or 8 things for me that were like the hardest.
I agree.
It was not.
And I want to preface it by saying that you had 3 full months of paternity leave. So
True.
You were not having to work other than just being a dad for that time.
True.
And then also like in the beginning, he would get up with me and I would like, nurse some, bottle feed. It was a whole thing. But towards like the middle of the newborn phase, we started taking turns. So we would tap in with each other. So we would be getting better stretches of sleep.
Yeah.
So that was like, find out what works for you there. But my answer is the same as you to this. It's also sleep. And I would describe myself as like those inflatable things at a car lot that like blow with the wind and they're like down and then they're up. And that's honestly how I describe myself during those first, I guess the 4th trimester, the first 3 months. And I'd be like, I don't know how I am other than like God. Like, I'm like, I don't know. I don't know how is this possible? Cause I'd like, oh my gosh, this is not horrible, but I'm down and out. And then it's like, I'm up again. I'm like, I don't know how, because I don't feel like being up, and not just about sleeping, but just in general. And so, that was a big surprise for me too.
Yeah. And like, I think what was harder for me, this isn't my answer to a different question, but like what was harder for me than losing the sleep was like remembering to do all of the normal routine things that you do when you have enough rest. Like that to me was harder than not. I don't remember thinking like, oh, I just have to have this nap or whatever. Like I was okay.
There are sometimes I needed to do that, and I think it was a little bit different for me just breastfeeding and like recovering from a C-section.
Yeah, of course.
Yeah, no, but also like our days kind of molded into the nights of like what we were like. I remember like putting them down for a nap and like us running to the bed just to see if we could like fall asleep and sleep while they were sleeping.
Yep. Should I ask the opposite?
Time. Yeah, ask the opposite question.
Time? I didn't mean to cut that off.
That's okay.
Sorry. It was a very sweet time.
It's okay.
Okay, so what did you expect to be easy? You answer first. That ended up being either much, much harder or the most difficult thing?
I think that my answer to what would be easy that was actually harder is time management and getting things done. And only because, like, I don't know, I'm not superhuman. People often describe me as superhuman with getting things done, but I'm usually really able to get things done. And then also on top of that, I had already scaled back like working for myself. So I set my own hours, but I'd already scaled back. And so I thought like, I already got this. I'm already down to, a blog post a week or something instead of 4. And so I'd already scaled back, and I didn't realize I was going to have to scale back even more. And just like being okay with not getting things done. I kind of answered it earlier in like what I would tell my pre-pregnant, pre-parent self, and just like, it's going to be okay. And like, I know it's going to be okay, but it still doesn't make me feel good at times. I just sometimes go to bed feeling like a failure and like I got nothing done. And then I have to like, no, Lauren, you got this done and this done and this done and this done. And guess what? You were with your kids all day too, which is also really hard. And so it's a mental battle for me. But yeah, time management and getting it done, just because I think I got jealous of other people. Usually they had just had a singleton, which is twin speak for one child, one baby. And they're like, oh, the baby naps. And then I work during this time. And I'm like, a lot of times they ping pong naps. And so one is asleep and the other's not. Yeah. And then when they napped, they really only didn't like nap for like 30 minutes. Right now at 18 months old, they will nap for like an hour and a half once a day. So even that is shorter than a lot of people. So I think comparison is probably a problem in there too. But just like being able to get things done. And I, you know, we talked about it, and like I couldn't see myself like not working or doing something for me that bring me joy in addition to taking care of the kids. And so it's just like a personal battle that I deal with, but I feel like I'm getting better. Just to kind of end that on a positive
You're
note.
Definitely getting better. And why it is significant that she keeps bringing up, people tell her like, oh, you've done so much, I don't know how you do so much, is because, you kind of hinted at this, it's because she feels like she does nothing.
Yeah.
Like it is honestly rare that you feel like, oh, I've had a very productive day.
Yeah,
even
or that
if
I got
the
everything
kids were
done
not.
that I wanted
Yeah.
done.
Yeah. So like it's significant that people are saying that, not because she's trying to be cocky in any way. It's more because like she doesn't feel that way. At least this is what it looks like from my perspective, right? You don't feel that way. Like when I give you that compliment, like, oh wow, like look at how much happened today and how much we did. Like a lot of the times I feel like you brush it off because it's hard for you to hear and you don't resonate with it, even though you've done a lot.
Yeah. Yeah. I think it's because I always have like a running list in my head and like tabs that are just like out in cyberspace of my brain of like, these are the things that I need to do. And I think that's why I like to check so many things off. It's because it feels like a weight is lifted for me.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
I mean, something happened right before we recorded this podcast that was unexpected and not great. And you said,
I already forgot about it.
You said what out loud?
What did I say out loud?
You said, this is just another thing added to the list that never gets shorter.
Yeah, it is.
And like, look, you're right. You know, like there always is going to be more stuff added to our list and there's always going to be more we can do. But like, I think I'm answering for you. I apologize. Tell me if I'm wrong. But like, I think it is still very hard for you to realize that a day where you get nothing checked off of your list, where you're a great mom, not enough, you know?
He's crying again.
Camera, zoom in on Lauren. Well, it's tough.
Really
like that's tough to hear.
I think
or not hear, but it's tough to see.
Yeah.
You know?
No, and I think it's just because I feel like I bear the weight of. I feel like not because you told me this or anything. You're, like I said, you're a great helper, appointed by me. Like I bear the weight of like a lot of mental loads that I just feel like I have to check off, and it's heavy, and I want to get rid of it.
Yeah.
In all aspects of it.
I mean, we are also different in that I call it compartmentalization or whatever you want to call it, but like things that are hard in my life, I can just set aside.
Yeah.
Like I deal with them later.
Good or bad, you're really good at that.
Yeah. So like her saying this is my understanding
and
how I think I've learned to understand you better. Like you saying that you're accepting the mental load or feeling the mental load of those things more is because it's very difficult for you to shut those things off. So you knowing, like, I know we need to, get certain things done that are really important. The same things we need to get done, but I'm setting them aside until I'm going to do them. Or even sometimes if it's too late and you're not thinking about, or you haven't stopped thinking about them until they are complete to the degree where you expect them
it's
to
not
be.
that you don't care. It just affects you differently.
Yes.
Okay. So, sir, I want to ask you the same question back. What was hard that you thought would be easier?
Yeah. To me, it's I kind of alluded to it with the coffee thing, which don't be mad at me for saying that, but it was I was answering a different question. I think for me, the hardest thing was the immediacy of the needs of the kids. So like and we just kind of talked about this with like things that are tough and I can file them away or put them, in a different compartment until I need to deal with them. Like I am continually surprised with how many things need our attention immediately, where we have to drop what we're doing and go over to help the kids that aren't necessarily like massive emergencies, but they need help. You know, a kid falling and hitting their head or whatever, or falling and maybe injuring themselves, like obviously that's a big emergency. But I'm not only talking about those things. It's like if they're crying, they need something right now. Like it doesn't make sense for me to continue making my pour over cup of coffee and not go find out, like, has one of them fallen on the other? Or is like, are they choking on something? You know, like, and I'm not saying I'm a nervous dad or anything. I think like just, I recognized early that the things that needed to get done immediately, which is against my nature. And then it also started to get in the way of the few things that I had full control over, like making a pour over cup of coffee or walking the dog or whatever. Like the things that I knew how to do, I felt like I was really good at, they got interrupted a lot. And I didn't realize how much value I assigned to those things. So the immediacy of the needs of the kids, that was the hardest thing for me.
Okay. What has surprised you about parenting?
Wait, you didn't answer that
Yes,
question.
I did. We spent a whole long time on it.
Sorry. Okay, you answered it
Yeah,
first.
it's okay. That's okay.
You're right.
Say it again.
You're right.
Say it again so that people can hear.
You're right.
Thank you.
In this specific instance.
Yeah, thank you very much. So what has surprised you about parenting or being a parent so far?
I mean, a lot of things. You're not asking the most surprising, right? You're saying like, just say some surprising things.
I don't know.
You're asking the most surprising, aren't you?
But it doesn't have to be. Like, don't pressure yourself.
I mean, the thing I'm feeling right now, and I think it's because we have toddlers that know how to walk, and twins just love to walk in opposite directions. It's their favorite thing. To me, like, this is something to talk about another time, but like, it is very difficult to make friends as an adult, and to make new friends, and to make new family friends, as a new fammy.
We're accepting our application if anyone want to be our friends.
Oh, all about it. Yeah, please. We cook. We like wine. There's a bunch of great things we bring to the table.
Long walks on the beach.
Love those. So we already established I'm an extrovert, right? I love to meet people, and like I feel like it's I can use those skills and hopefully make us some connections or help to make us some connections with families. But when we're out with the kids, and we already again established we love to bring them everywhere, we still do. But if we're bringing them somewhere where like we want to meet other families, meet other parents, like meet other people in general, it's just so hard to start or carry those conversations. And not because either one of us aren't good at it, but because like we went to a family hangout the other day at a playground where there were a bunch of other moms there, right? Like, and we didn't have the time to really talk to them that much because we had to follow each of the twins. Yeah. And they're not really old enough to play by themselves yet. So like right now, that's one of the most surprising things to me is like, I feel like we have the skills to make the connections we want to make. And we know we need to make those connections, but nothing against the twins, but like being a parent is currently in the way of our ability to do those things.
Yeah, and we need those connections. Like in general, you need those people to have discussions with, to bounce ideas off, to feel like you're not alone. So that's also why we created this podcast, is because we wanted to feel not alone. We want you to feel not alone, unless you want to be. That's a tagline, where you're not alone unless you want to be. So right. I think my answer, we don't have to spend.
Yes. What's your answer?
Thank you, sir.
Yes.
We don't have to spend a ton of time on it because I think we already talked about it. But I think the most surprising for me is like I didn't realize how much I would loosen up, and how if anything, I thought like having a child would make me more rigid and have more boundaries, which we have boundaries, but I just thought it would make me more type A, and really it's made me not. So I guess that's like kind of a good surprise, I would say. I think I've leaned in the right direction, because being type A is great for getting things. Yes, for me, it's great for getting things done, but it can also get in the way of doing things like making friends. So that's my answer. Yeah,
to me, it is. So I'm gonna refine your answer from my perspective, which I guess I probably do a lot. So tell me when I don't need to.
I want to hear it.
So I think of it less as you moving towards the right direction, and more like you're an X-Men going to your X-Men Academy, like figuring out how to hone your power.
Who am I? Storm? I mean, is that one of them, right? I like to watch the cartoon.
I'm okay with that, with you being Storm.
Okay.
But the point is, like, it's not that you have become less of a type A person. I think you have learned when it makes sense, or at least you're continuing to learn when it makes sense for you to turn those skills on, and you're recognizing that it's okay to not always have them be on and at the forefront of your mind, right? Like you're getting better at setting aside, this has to be done right now or I'm not being productive enough, because you're doing other things for the family or taking care of the kids, or the kids need more energy than you expected they would need from you that day. It's not that you're less, like, I don't think you're a different person. You're not less type A. I would still call you type AAA because it's still the way your brain works, but you're much more chill now than you were before we had kids, because I think you're allowing yourself to turn those things off.
And you kind of touched on it, but I feel like we have both come towards the other. Like,
oh, yeah.
You know,
that's why I said what's right for you, because for me, it's leaning in the opposite direction.
And I feel like, and a good example of that would just be like, before you might have just, you know, you don't see a problem with leaving a pan in the sink, but which there's nothing morally wrong with doing that, but for me, I'm like, let's put everything away at night so that we wake up, it's like a better start. And like, you've started to do that. Maybe it still doesn't even affect you really in the morning, because you're fine like cleaning it before you make the twins breakfast or whatever, but you also see how it affects me and like how it is like probably a smoother start to the morning. So I feel like you have also leaned the other way, so high five.
Yes, that's probably going to be super crisp.
Oh yeah, let's do another one. Oh, wow. That was awesome.
Sorry if that was bad.
Okay, anything on that?
Listeners.
I was going to push us to the next question.
I just, little point of encouragement for me is I am, one of my favorite things now is to have the kitchen clean before we go to bed.
Yes.
So
yes.
Yeah, your type A virus has infiltrated me a little bit.
Virus sounds bad.
That was a joke.
Yeah, no one's laughing.
I'm okay with the virus. That's a good virus.
Okay, all right.
What has your favorite thing about parenting been so far?
That's really hard to just pick one thing, but I think I just like being around Cypress and Olive and like seeing them grow, and whether that be, taking them to something that interests them, because, as much as we take them into our lives, we also like to see like what they're interested in and like take them into to areas where they can grow those interests.
Yeah.
So like just seeing them in their element too. But it's also, I would say, in regard to just seeing them, like it's true when people are like, oh, they go down for their nap or their sleep and I miss them and I want to look at pictures on my phone and just lay there and not be productive and just look at pictures of them and videos of them,
Yeah.
I just think it's really sweet, like to witness them and to be their parents, because I think they're honestly the best.
They're pretty great.
That's probably it summed up into one nice present with a bow on top.
Yeah.
If I had to pick one.
My favorite thing about parenting, you were about to ask me the same question.
Yes, I was.
Right?
Go for it, sir.
Yeah, thank you for asking. I think my favorite thing right now, I mean, this changes a lot. I think my favorite thing right now is like watching them interact with other humans.
Yeah.
And not because I think they're any better or worse. It's just like, it is cool to see. It's just cool to see, like, I don't know. It's cool to see them be a part of the world.
Well, I think that you're such an extrovert. Like, you enjoy interacting with other people, and you're so good about, like, even when they were little, having them wave at people and, like, interacting with people. So it makes sense to me that that's something you enjoy, because you enjoy interacting with other people so much.
Yeah.
And I'm more of an introvert, in case you couldn't tell.
What you would say to people is that you can turn it on when you need to turn it on.
Yeah, I would say I'm an extroverted introvert, but I need a break sometimes. So
yes.
Yeah.
Yeah. And there's a bit of, for me, there's introvert, extrovert deconstruction. I no longer think it's a spectrum. I have a different philosophy now based on other podcasts. That's a different podcast.
Yeah, it's a different podcast. But not to add another answer to what you just said, but I think something I've really enjoyed is just like meeting other people through kids. It's just like something. Oh, yeah. It's kind of like when we got Dino, when we got our dog, like we met so many more people, and even like neighbors who we didn't really speak to, or they didn't speak to us, and like I think having kids is just, you're right, is an immediate icebreaker. And it's just nice and cool, like, to meet people, because they're an easy way to chat, or even like make someone's day with like a wave or whatever.
And then like another answer, which I think might be my favorite. Okay,
your
like,
favorite
absolute favorite thing is like it's kind of similar, but like seeing them have a sense of wonder. And
Oh,
joy.
wow.
Oh wow. That's something they both say right now.
Yeah.
Oh wow, in different ways.
Yeah.
But yeah, like just not just experiencing things for the first time, but just like their joy and surprise in noticing something or learning something is just so cool to see.
It reminds you to like take joy in even the small things.
Yeah. Oh yeah. Yeah, that's probably one of my favorite things.
I love it.
Yeah, that's a good one.
I love it.
All right, I'm gonna, look, I'm the type A person. I've got everything written out here, so I'm gonna move us along. So, what are some of your favorite parenting books or audiobooks?
Oh, you got
However
me.
you listen to your content.
Yeah. Whenever I try to read all the time in general, but I did like have parenting books and stuff that I read before they were born, and like Nick said, audiobooks are awesome. You can get them on Audible, but also if you've never heard of it, Libby is a free app that just connects to your local library, and you can get audiobooks on there for free. And so
Shout out Libby.
shout out Libby, shout out Audible. We'll put some links for you in the show notes. But I really enjoy just like learning. Test taking, not so much, but learning I enjoy. And so I think one of my favorite books that stood out to me while I was pregnant is Expecting Better by Emily Oster. I've actually read, I think she has 3 out right now. Expecting Better, Crib Sheet, and The Family Firm, and they're for different ages. But I loved Expecting Better for pregnancy, and the other 2 lean more towards like now, like when the kids are here. And I'll just speak to Expecting Better. It's just like, I love that she is an economist, which actually she speaks about in all 3 of the books. And so she looks at case studies and such, but looks at them from a real perspective, meaning that a lot of studies out there are inconclusive and they don't have like the same variables to where it's not actually like a big one that she references is, screen time and books, but like the screen time study is not conclusive just because it doesn't consider families in the same childcare. Like if a TV is like being your babysitter, that's different than a child watching TV just for 30 minutes a day or an hour, and like it doesn't compare like if you read books to them. And by being a babysitter, I just meant like they're watching TV all day long and not having any other interaction. So it's just not as cut and dry. And so I really appreciate that because I like to see like what studies are saying. Like I like to know what's out there and then use that to make best decisions for us and our family.
Yeah. So my answer is How Not to Hate Your Husband.
After having kids.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was a good one.
Yeah.
I read that one as well.
That was recommended to me by one of my old managers who's an amazing human being and just
she's
moved
awesome.
away, but we miss her and she's amazing.
Yeah.
But yeah, I loved that one. I mean, it's got a ton in there about it forces you to consider the other perspective. And I don't think
it's not just about, just to clarify if you haven't read it, it's not just about like hating your husband.
Yeah,
it's
yeah,
like,
yeah. That's what I was about to say.
Oh, sorry.
No,
Sorry,
you're fine.
you
Go ahead. Go ahead.
I was just saying it also looks at it from the other perspective, both sides.
Yeah. Yeah, and like the title to me before I read it, it did suggest like, oh, let's like more husband bashing and talk about how they don't know how to be good parents, but it's really not.
No.
Like it's a provocative title to incite some of that curiosity, I think, but like
it's just to incite consideration.
Yeah.
Is what I would say.
In both sides.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, which is healthy.
Yeah.
I think that leads in well to how we're going to close out of this thing.
Yeah, we'll put the book links in the show notes for you just so you have it.
If you guys have listened to our trailer, no worries if you haven't. I kind of mentioned.
Thanks for making this far in the first episode. We appreciate it. Thanks for listening to us.
Our main purpose here, just to kind of set the stage for the future episodes, like we want to continue to grow, continue to realize where there's a better approach and a better idea. We are not expecting to be perfect parents, nor do we think we already are. No. One of my favorite perspectives to have is like, pursue perfection and know you'll never get there. And to me, this is that for us. So like, we're not experts. We don't have credentials as parents. Like, we have a little bit of experience, but there's a ton out there who have more than us and who have studied more and given speeches and lectures on parenting and parenting, tips and done studies and stuff. And like, I just want to learn from not only those who are listening to us, but those people around us. And I want to continue talking about how we can improve.
I have a question for you on that.
Yeah.
I just want to clarify. When you say pursue perfection, though, you're not saying like forget, like with blinders on.
No.
You're just saying like do the best, right?
Yeah, I'm saying like if you're
do
not...
the best you can.
Yeah, if you're not pursuing getting better, you're not going to improve.
Growing.
In my...
Yeah.
Yeah. So
I'm
it's
just saying like because a person like me, like type A, you could pursue perfection and like above all else, and that can be dangerous. So that's all.
Well, so that's
clarifying.
what the caveat of the second point is. Like it's
I cut
like,
you off before you're ready.
I want to get as... I don't think I will be anywhere near a perfect parent. That's not what I'm trying to say.
Okay.
I'm trying to say I want to like keep always working towards what it means to be the best parent that I can be, with a recognition that I will never get there. So maybe it's not perfect. Maybe it's like best parent Nick can be or best parent you can be. Like that's what I want to run towards. And this for me is a way where you and I can continue to pursue whatever that looks like. And look, if you guys learn something along the way, great. If you get a different perspective from us, great. If you figure out like something we're doing or an idea we have doesn't work for you or didn't work for you or won't work for you, that's still great and stepping in the right direction for you and your family as well. So yeah, I just want this to be a place of growth, and I don't want any of you to feel like we're dictating, because I don't like, neither one of us feel like we know the answers. We think we have done well in specific areas for us, but in no way are we no way did we start a podcast because we think we have so much unique perspective and are so much better parents than anybody else. Like, that's not the place we're coming from.
Nope, not at all. Ditto.
Tell me if that made sense.
It did. It made sense.
So grow with us,
Yeah.
listen to us.
Yeah, and if you like today's episode, would you please rate us? It really does help us. Give us a thumbs up if you're watching on YouTube. We do have all of our content on YouTube. If you'd rather watch our faces, see Nick cry, like, I mean,
he never
got some
does.
great, by never means always. But be great. Give us a follow on Instagram at boygirlmom.com, spelled out with the D-O-T. Our website is boygirlmom.com as well. And yeah, you can sign up for our newsletter as well. We will put that in the show notes too.
Yeah,
where you
please
can
do.
be.
It's not for spam.
No.
It's just, we'll let you know when new episodes are out and stuff.
And some other special information and goodies. So yeah, hit us up.
Yeah. Thank you for listening.
Thank you so much for listening. We can't wait to grow with you.
Boy, girl, mom, and dad. Gotta wash those butts together. It's a trip, but we'll guide you through with tips and tricks for boys and girls too.